What's up, Kolby Culture family? It's your favorite uncle, Uncle Kolby, back with the season finale of the Kolby Culture Show. And let me tell you, we're going out with a bang. Today, I'm sitting down with none other than New York Times best-selling author Michael Arceneaux to chop it up about his latest book, I Finally Bought Some Jordans, and his entire literary journey. But you know we got to kick things off right. So let's jump into this week's literary drop. All right, fam, this week's literary drop is I Did a New Thing by the incomparable Tabitha Brown. Tabitha takes us on a journey of change, self-love, and faith, sharing how she's embraced the newness of life and the blessings that come when you step outside of your comfort zone. If you're looking for a book that inspires growth and uplifts your spirit, this one is it. Y'all know the drill. Check out the full review on my website, djacobywashington.com, ahead of next week's episode. This has been this week's literary drop. Now let's give a warm Kolby Culture welcome to today's guest, New York Times best-selling author Michael Arceneaux. He's the brilliant mind behind I Can't Date Jesus, I Don't Want to Die Poor, and now his latest work, I Finally Bought Some Jordans. Michael's writings cover everything from race, class, and sexuality to labor, debt, and pop culture, with plenty of humor and heart. Michael, welcome to the Kolby Culture Show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. That was a really nice introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. I've been following your work since I Can't Date Jesus. You're an absolutely amazing writer. And like I said, you share your stories with so much humor and heart. And so when I reached out to you and you responded back, I was just like overwhelmed. So I'm kind of fanning out just a little bit, but I'm really excited to speak with you today. So let's jump right into it. So you've written some iconic books that touch on serious topics, but with such humor and relatability. Let's start with I Finally Bought Some Jordans. What inspired you to write this collection of essays, and what message do you want readers to take away from it?
I'll also thank you again for being so nice. I initially sold the book. It had a different title. I think when I started, I Can't Date Jesus, I knew I wanted to write about religion and identity and my kind of like my coming of age. Essentially, I knew I wanted to write about that with the second book, but I knew that I wanted another book to kind of round that out. It initially had a different title, different direction, but frankly, like a lot of life happened, and the book was a lot of it was a challenge to write, as I've mentioned, I think a couple times, maybe even during the book at the very end. But I think ultimately what I settled on was that, I wanted to be honest about where I was and what, the last couple of years my life looked like, and kind of like a lot of the grief that I was carrying. But I wanted to end it on a funny, hopeful note. And ultimately, I ended up changing the title because when I was doing press for the second book, I kind of was thinking back, and it was like people were asking me in nice ways, "Are you still poor?" Mm-hmm. So I think for me, the Jordans thing was a way to be like, I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm okay, or I'm learning to take little things for myself. But yeah, for me, it's just ultimately the message to take away is, even if life doesn't look like the way you wanted it, for whatever reason, there are many reasons to celebrate big and small. It's about kind of learning to treat yourself, letting go of shame. And again, it's just kind of laughing at how sometimes hard life can be and just how ridiculous it could be at the same time. So yeah, it was all a challenge, but I still wanted to be funny. So when that title kind of popped in, it felt right. So I'm glad that you received it the way I intended.
Absolutely. It's an amazing read. I actually was on travel last week and had a layover in Fort Lauderdale. And as I was about to board my flight, one of the gate attendants saw the book in my hand and she was like, "Wait, what are you reading?" And so I shared it with her. And so I boarded the plane, and she actually, I guess, had researched you in that short moment, and so much so that she found me on the plane, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to read his work." Like,
I hope she likes it. Bless you both.
I know she will. So from I Can't Date Jesus to I Don't Want to Die Poor, and now I Finally Bought Some Jordans. So we've seen your evolution as a writer. How do you feel that your voice has changed since the first book, and what's been your biggest growth moment as an author?
Oh, that's a hard question. A great one. I think, to be honest, I wasn't really sure about the quality of the third book literally until I turned it in, and even after. It wasn't until I had to read it out loud with the audiobook last November. It was only literally about 3 weeks after my mom's funeral, which I mentioned at the end of the book, I really struggled to write it because I was grieving some losses that are mentioned in the book, and then literally the day that I felt that I got it together, or I felt like my old self, and actually saw my book agent who was in town. Literally 10 minutes later, my mom called and told me she had cancer, and she died 6 months later. So, with the book, it was a lot of sadness. It was a lot of like forcing myself to write. And it's all my roundabout way of saying, having to push myself really to the limit to get this done. I had to get this done to get home. I had to get this done to get paid. I had to get this done because I was contractually obligated. I wanted to be kind of free because, writing a book, particularly when you write about your life, can be really an emotionally exhausting space. It's a privilege to be able to write about your life, but at the same time, it can be a lot. So, I just felt really drained. But when I actually read the book, and it was very difficult to read, it's actually been the only time I've read it since. I thought, this is a lot better than I thought. And I noticed even in the moments where I was recording the audiobook, I was making the producer and the engineer laugh. And there were even moments where and then some of the copy that I thought wasn't my strongest, I thought, no, you should be proud that you got this done. And honestly, hearing from people like you and the feedback that I have gotten about the book has been really nice. And it's given me an appreciation for all the work that I put into it. I think ultimately I've grown as a writer is that I'm not, even when I'm facing kind of, I guess, what I write a lot about a lot of difficult subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly pushing myself and challenging myself, not only to get my work done, but to try to find light, even in the darkest of circumstances. I'm proud of myself for that. And it's something that I'm really actively trying to kind of remember as I kind of wrestle through grief.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just I really pushed myself, and people really can see that I put a lot of myself into the book and a lot of work, and I truly appreciate that. It's really helped me find some confidence still as a writer.
Yeah, you definitely give us light, brother. So keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely received. Like, yeah, you give us light. So
I
I
appreciate
absolutely
that.
appreciate you. And I have one question. Did Tony Braxton unblock you?
No, I mean not on Twitter. Last time I checked, it went maybe like a month ago. I looked randomly because I'm watching the Braxtons, of course. I actually wrote something favorably. I mean, people are being mean to him about that show, but as someone grieving, I actually found it very comforting to know, like 2 years later, because we're getting closer to like a year now. It's actually helped me. In any event, no, she didn't unblock me, but I've heard like when I did Sherry Shepherd's show in May, Sherry was trying to help. Tony was like, it's not her. Like she was trying to communicate a message, but I'm still blocked there. So I'm like, come on now, somebody fix it. But as long as I'm not blocked on Instagram, I'm like, but I'm trying to get the book to her. Keep me. Friends have sent the book to the sisters and one for Tony. I'm like, come on, Tony. Like, let's make up in Vegas. But no, I'm still blocked.
Got you. Tony, unblock this brother.
Please.
All right, so your books tackle everything from race and class to pop culture and personal finance, but always with this type of sharp wit. How do you balance humor with these heavy topics, and why is it important to keep that humor alive when addressing serious issues?
I think it's just kind of byproduct of environment. If you read the first book, I had a difficult upbringing. But what I will always say, and I've said it in I think all of the books, is that everyone in my family is really funny. Everyone has like a very specific sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, just without humor, I personally wouldn't still be here. I wouldn't have gotten through all that. I think sometimes people can use humor as a crutch, particularly in like writing about your life and more difficult issues and topics. But at the same time, I think if you have the capability to find humor in even the darkest situations and you happen to be a creative, I think you should use that. It's just for me, it's natural, but also it's intentional because I think it helps people kind of relate. Because I just feel like if you can't laugh at how even hard life can be, what else do you have? So for me, it's just kind of reflex. It's just kind of a byproduct of what I've been through. I will say with the third book, I actually really didn't feel that funny.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't I didn't feel like I was in a funny space. So that's what I meant even when I was doing like the audiobook and they were laughing. That made me think, oh, true to myself is like even when I'm not trying to be funny, it's still there. So, you know, I think it's just innate and I'm fortunate that it's still there. But yeah.
Love it, love it. One of the themes of your new book is about making your voice heard in an increasingly noisy world. And so, with the landscape of social media and the internet, how do you think Black creatives can navigate the spaces that often shut doors or leave them slightly ajar?
Oh, um, honestly, I will just say, you know what, because I'm hesitating and I'm struggling a little bit because I just will say like it is truly in real time I'm learning just how disoriented everything is and how fragment is a better word, everything is. So I just it feels sometimes feels harder than ever. But at the same time, I will say if you have access to the internet and you have something to say, to put something out there, not only to put something out there, but also to be consistent about it. I do think if it's something, I think the consistency helps. I think eventually people find you, and I think you just have to try. That's not like the most hopeful thing right now. Because I'll be just honest, like the media landscape is very fragmented. It's really hard. That being said, there's always a way that talent kind of finds itself. Things are just more different than it used to be. But at the same time, I think it also creates a lot of different opportunities. I just think if you're a creative, you should also be protective of what you put out there on the internet. But in case you're a writer, you know, blogs are kind of slowly making their way back. I
Mhm.
actually think even though journalism is suffering right now, I think even print will have a resurgence because I'm noticing younger people are kind of appreciating having hard copies. So
Yeah.
in some respects, it's harder than ever. At the same time, the internet is a tool. Use it however you can. I just think it's practice. Because for me, I think, you know, when I started, we had the blog era, and it's not quite the same. You can't get access the same way, but at the same time, you can monetize it in a way that was easier now. I'm rambling a bit, but essentially, I think it's harder than ever, but it's still possible.
Mhm.
But you really do have to be consistent. I think more aggressive about it than perhaps even I did like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Got it. Good, good, good advice. So we always ask, and again,
I was like, I hope so. Sorry. You got me on
good
that.
advice. So we always ask this on the show, and I'm excited to hear your take. What does your creative space look like? And then how do you get in the zone when you sit down to write?
That's so funny. Okay, so I kind of like okay, so I moved back to LA. It's been a few years now, but I'm actually still adjusting to my creative space here. When I was in New York and on the East Coast, or even in Houston, I will say when I'm in LA now, like LA is beautiful. I like my little pop walks and hikes. All the light and all that is great. But sometimes for me, it's too bright to write. So I prefer to write early in the morning or
Okay.
early in the afternoon, especially if I'm on deadline. If I can't do that exactly, I need it dark. I get distracted more easily than ever. So like if I'm writing something that's not too whatever, I can kind of put on like a certain playlist, particularly one of my friends, DJ Maya, I listen to her playlist. But other than that, I actually need like once I went on a date, date didn't go nowhere, but he gave me a tip. He said video game soundtracks are a great way to focus. So something like that, if I have music on, it'll be that, or be something like Bossa Nova, something real chill.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like force myself to write because sometimes for me it's like a lot of every. I start cleaning. I'm like that trifling writer thing. I'll do everything with the actual writing until I have to force myself to get it done. But
Yeah.
usually just kind of something dim and music that's kind of soothing but not too distracting. And then I force myself to write. If I'm writing like a script and stuff, that can actually be a little bit more fun. I guess it depends on the timeline. But yeah, generally LA is too bright, so I need it like kind of dim and whatever. But I actually might switch it up soon. I heard that I should try writing by the beach. So I
Mm.
actually might do that soon. I think that'll be good for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the writers that we've interviewed on the show have talked about like water, like being by
Yeah.
the beach or just like a lake or something. Just being by the water somehow is really helpful. But
Yeah.
appreciate that. That's great. So you shared openly about the struggles and joys of life in your writing, from dating to debt and everything in between. How has sharing these personal parts of your life shaped your connection with readers?
I think I've helped. I like to make people. I usually say with my books, my mission is kind of usually pretty simple. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people think, and I want people to feel less alone.
Mhm.
And to your question, a lot of people reach out to me, or people I've met at my book events, or people who send emails. I talk about a lot of things that are hard to admit, particularly like the shame about debt, or like feeling like the late bloomer, or feeling isolated, or having like this weird gray area when it comes to like acceptance about sexuality or whatever, and religion, all these different things. So a lot of people of all different types of backgrounds. For me, one, it's good to feel like you help people. Two, I feel like on a professional level, I help dispel this notion that, because of who I am and my background, that other people can't relate to me.
Yeah.
I'm very specific. I write in my voice. I write to Black folks, but all types of people truly have found my books and reached out to me and connect to it, regardless of whatever like slang I use or like turn of phrase. So that's really validating. Like, you never. Obviously, some people kind of, you leave yourself open for judgment, but at the same time, I hear a lot of people feel better that I talk about a lot of these things. So it's genuinely comforting. And now that I have people basically who are kind of like 20-year-old versions of me in a weird way, kind of like, because they tell us specifically, I grew up in Houston. I didn't know somebody like me existed. It's nice to feel like you give hope to people and
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing, love it. All right, so we're gonna shift now to
Mhm.
what I call the Kolby Culture Quick Fire. So these are quick questions that warrant
All
quick
right.
answers. So let's see how fast you can think on your feet. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's hit it. Favorite book growing up?
I can't remember the specific, but I'm gonna go with the Also Watching God. That's the first book I remember in high school, like pulling me in, like Zorro. So yeah, I'll go with that one.
Okay. One word to describe your writing journey.
Um, Difficult.
Yeah. All right, best piece of advice you've ever received.
I'm too hard on myself, and
Mm,
it's constant. I constantly hear that from people.
mm. What are you doing to address that, or are you doing anything to address that?
I'm always trying to address it. I will just, I think I got better at it in more recent years, but just to be perfectly blunt, last year and this year have kind of really weighed on me. So we're recalibrating, but yeah, it's a constant thing.
Understood. Understood. What's your guilty pleasure in pop culture?
I don't believe in guilt, but
I love that. Yes.
I will say the family business on BET Plus is so funny because it's so ridiculous. It's basically like it stars Ernie Hudson and the light skinned mom from Half and Half. That's not Aunt Rachel from Family Matters. I discovered it literally right after my mom passed, and it's basically like Tyler. It's a Carl Weber, so it's like a stage play version of Empire,
Mm.
almost. But it's about drug dealer families. Although some of the drug dealers were fake Gucci, so that's why. Yeah, it just makes me laugh so much. Yeah.
The family business.
Yes.
Got
So
it. One thing you're most proud of.
I'm always trying.
Mm. Biggest lesson you've learned from life.
You don't know how long you have with somebody, so you should cherish that time.
Yeah. Dream person to collaborate with.
This is the jaded me from being in TV development too long. I'm just kidding. Actually, you know what? I always love Issa Rae. I'm such a big fan of Issa Rae. Yeah, always Issa Rae, and she's been very kind to me about my writing. So we love Issa.
Mm. Love it. Last one. I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm gonna ask you anyways. Beyonce or Solange?
Beyonce. No disrespect. We are. Yes.
Got it. Got it. Well, thank you for indulging me in the Kolby Culture Quick Fire. All right, fam. Y'all know we could not leave you out of the conversation. So let's get into some audience questions for Michael. And like I said, shared earlier, Michael, we got some questions that have already come through. But
All
for those
right.
people that have tuned in, if you have some burning questions that you want to ask Michael, drop them in the chat and we might just share them with him. So first question, what's been the most surprising feedback you've received about your books?
Uh, I don't know. I've actually not been surprised by anything. Yeah, I've actually not been surprised by anything. Even if something's been critical, nothing's really surprised me. I guess maybe you want to believe that every type of person can enjoy your book, but
Mm-hmm.
then when it actually happens, sometimes that can surprise you a little bit, like the types of people, but nothing, no particular criticism I can't think of actually.
Got it.
Well, not any comments, sorry.
Got it. What advice would you give to young Black writers trying to break into the industry?
Um, be very amenable to how you make money. Have no shame about a day job or any side gigs. Um, and actually, in some cases, depending on what type of creative you do and how art, sometimes having a day gig actually might be better for you in that you don't have to constantly focus on one aspect to support the other in terms of money.
Mm,
Um, yeah, just be very amenable when it comes to making money because I just think, unfortunately, I think things will change, but I think particularly a lot of shifts have made it really harder for artists to get what they deserve, and that literally depends. No matter what the medium is, it's just been harder. Particularly if you write songwriters, every type of writer is it's rougher.
yeah, yeah. Good advice. Which book of yours is closest to your heart and why?
Oh wow. I was gonna say I Can't Date Jesus, but I actually will go with I. Well, you know what? Actually, I Can't Date Jesus because I'm still actually working on the book in a way with the TV stuff. So like it's always been my little book that could, and then I feel like it's still with me.
Yeah, yeah. How do you stay grounded and inspired when life gets overwhelming?
Life is very humbling, so I'm already grounded. But I'll say I truly think it's important, particularly for one's own happiness and for my own being too hard on self problem, is that you need to like live in gratitude and practice gratitude and find little things to be grateful for every single day. I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, I love that. Who or what has influenced your writing the most over the years?
I think no matter what, my mom has always been my way of learning so much about the world and how people treated her and things. I Can't Date Jesus is a direct reference to my mom. Even the way I start the second book, it was about my mom. My mom has influenced so much about my writing, who I am as a person. I am very much a proud mama's boy, and I'm always trying to make her proud. So yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you for answering these questions that came from our audience members. I really appreciate it. I'm going to shift into what is my favorite part of the show. It's called the
Okay.
Culture Word Wave. So the way it works is I'll throw out a word, and you hit me back with the first thing that comes to mind, whether it's a thought, a feeling, or a quick story. All right,
So
you ready? First word, purpose,
I'm trying to find mine again. Grief is heavy, but yeah.
success,
I think is a definition that will redefine itself as you get older, at least for me.
fear,
Um, it's human, but you should really try to avoid it.
Hmm. Tell us more about that.
I think you can't help but, I mean, I don't know, not, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think some people, whatever their experiences are, you understand why they could have fear about something. But I think at the same time, giving into fear, letting fear drive you one way or another can, I don't know, be dicey and unhealthy. I hope that makes sense. But yeah,
Yeah. Change.
it's something I'm open. I mean, I feel like I've always been open to change, but I'm a lot more open to a lot of different changes now. I don't know, in this stage of life.
Hmm. Resilience.
Makes me think of my mom.
Truth.
I try to always tell it.
Okay. Inspiration.
um, Looking for something right now, personally.
Hmm. Joy.
Makes me think of Frankie Beverly and Maze.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for indulging me in the Kolby
That
Culture.
was fun.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite part of the show because it really lets you get into the mind of the author, right, in a different kind of way. So thank you so much for blessing us with your brilliance today, Michael. Your journey from I Can't Date Jesus to I Finally Bought Some Jordans is nothing short of inspiring, brother. And I know the Kobe Culture fam is walking away with gems. So I want to open it up now for any parting words that you might have and you want to leave with our audience. And then let us know how we can keep in contact with you.
Thank you again for having me. This was a really great interview. I think I mentioned before, I haven't really been opening my mouth in a while, so I'm really glad I did this. Thank you, everybody, for sending your questions. Um, I ain't been posting as much lately, but I know I'll wake up eventually. I'm at Young, spelled the regular way, Sinick, Young Cynic. Not so young anymore, but the name sticks. It's always a part of me. Thanks again for having me. If you don't have the books, please check them out. I'm paperback Toya, so I'm affordable. Buying for other people, keep spreading the word. But no, really, this was great. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you again for joining us. To my Kobe Culture family, whether you're out here navigating your own creative path, dealing with life struggles, or just trying to buy those damn Jordans, remember that your voice matters. Keep pushing, keep laughing, and keep showing up for yourself. And remember, you can catch the Kobe Culture Show wherever you stream your podcast. We're talking Spotify, Apple, Google, all of that. Plus, you can still catch us on YouTube at The Kobe Culture Show. So don't miss out. New episodes drop every Thursday, and we can't wait to keep bringing the heat for you. And as we close out this season, I just want you all to know that I am so appreciative of your support. Know that we've got some major announcements dropping this fall. So make sure you stay plugged in. And are following us on all social platforms at Kobe Culture Show. So until next time, fam, remember to always keep it Kobe Culture.